If you've ever looked at a beautifully designed website and thought there's no way I could create something like that, this video is going to change your mind. Today we're taking one of the most well-designed websites on the internet, which is Superlist, and rebuilding it step by step in Thrive Architect. And no, you won't need any coding skills or design experience, just Thrive Architect and the insights I'm about to share with you. Here's what usually happens when people try to create a high-end looking website. They either end up with something that looks generic and, templatey, or they get lost trying to implement, modern design trends, and they typically end up with a mess that doesn't actually help with conversions. But here's the thing, great website design isn't about flashy animations or complicated code. It's about clarity and intentions, specifically intention. Every element should serve a purpose, and that's exactly what makes Superlist websites so effective. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to recreate this award-winning design using Thrive Architect. We're going to break down their clean, minimal layout structure, their effective use of white space and typography, although we should probably say empty space, not white space, because there's not a whole lot of white space, but breathing room. We're also going to talk about their clever conversion elements. And last but not least, we're going to talk about how to implement all of this without touching a single line of code. Now let's dive into actually building this in Thrive Architect. I'm going to walk you through recreating this design section by section, and I'll explain the thinking behind each element as we go. Now, before we start building, make sure that you've got a blank template open inside Thrive Architect. We want to start with a clean slate so you can see exactly how to build this completely from scratch. As I usually do in these types of videos where I'm rebuilding or replicating a website, I'd like to just take a look at the site itself before we actually go in and start building, just so that we can break it apart into sections and, just to give you guys a bird's eye view of how we're going to be tackling this page, okay? So first things first, we've got our header section. Now this header you can replicate using Thrive Architect, but if you want to do things right on WordPress, you want to make this part of your theme, right? Your header and your footer, you want to make sure that you're creating those things inside your theme. So we're going to take care of these things using Thrive Theme Builder because that is the theme that I'm using on my existing WordPress website. And the header is essentially made up of 3 different columns. We have a left-hand column for our logo, a center column for our actual menu, and then a right-hand column here with 2 call to actions to either sign in or sign up. We then have a hero section, which is pretty simple. It looks kind of cool. We're going to be making use of primarily of this purplish background color. And there are, these guys are actually making use of gradients in the background as well, which is making the page look really nice and really clean. But the structure itself is pretty simple, right? I mean, in the hero section, for example, we've got some information here in the form of a content box. We have our H1 heading, a subheading, call to actions, and then an image here. Pretty simple, straightforward. Shouldn't take us too long to build that out. We then have a section here with logos of companies that are working with Superlist. And we then get to a section where we have a heading, a video. I know there's another section here with a separate video. This is a 2-column layout with some content on the left-hand column, a video in the right-hand column. Keep on scrolling down, some more videos, some more videos. We're going to be able to duplicate some of these sections, which is nice. So a couple of images, and then this section here where we got some text, which is, as you scroll down, you can see how it starts. These headings start being, in white, and then as you scroll down, they fade and they turn into this darker gray color. Funny, interesting choice of typography here to promote the verge. And then we then have our bottom section and our footer. All right, let's go ahead and start building this out. All right, so as you can see, I'm in the back end of my WordPress website. And if I jump over into Thrive Dashboard, inside our global elements is where we're going to start creating our header and footer. So here I'm going to come into headers. I'm going to create a new header. And I'm going to call this, let's just call this, actually, we can probably start, since we're looking for a 3-column layout, we can probably save ourselves some time if we start off from let's go ahead and start working from the logo menu search template, for example. Let's choose this one because it already has a 3-column layout, and we're going to be able to quickly modify the content inside each individual column. We're going to call this Superlist. Let's create that new header. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to insert in here a, actually something funny that is probably worth mentioning is that Superlist is actually not making use of a full logo here for their logo. So the word Superlist here is actually written out in the form of text, and the only actual image being used in the logo is the actual icon. How do I know this? Well, I've inspected the code and I can tell that this is just plain text and then this is an actual image. So I've saved that icon as an image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the template logo that this template comes with. And I'm going to insert this one. Let's make this a little smaller. I'm going to have to insert a content box here on the left-hand column. And we can probably add it underneath the logo. That way, we can insert a pair of columns now inside the content box, make them half and half, and drag the icon here in the left-hand column. And now we can start inserting some text in the right-hand column. I'm going to do Superlist. And by the way, I'm just going to power through with this build with, using Arial as the main typography. It's not going to be exactly as this one. We may actually change it later, but let's just power through this with Arial for now. I'm going to make this bold. I'm going to make this a little wider. And let's center things vertically speaking. All right. And I'm probably going to want to make this a little bigger. Yeah, let's double that. That may be a little too big, actually. Let's do 24. Yeah, that's better. It's much, much better. All right. And then here we're going to do the same thing. For our right-hand column, we're going to do a pair of columns. I'm going to put them above, above or underneath the search bar. Let's do half and half. We don't need the search bar. And let's make this column be 20%. And here we're going to insert a couple of buttons. We probably want the left-hand button to be fully transparent. Let's actually clone the button. And let's make this left-hand column have a fully transparent background. It's going to say sign in, sign in. We don't need letter spacing for this button. And let's go ahead and pick out the purple color that we're going to be using. So I'm using a tool called SIP, that is SIP. It's available on Mac OS. Don't think it's available for Windows, but I'm sure there's a similar tool that you can find. And it quickly allows me with a keyboard shortcut to inspect what color is a web page using. So with that said, I can now change the background style of this header and make use of the purple that we're going to be using moving forward. All right, perfect. Let's make this white. All right, let's make the text of our menu white as well. And we need to modify the background color of this button. Now, this button is a little strange because it has a little bit of a gradient, right? It starts off being a little using a lighter red at the very top, and then as we move down, it gets a little more intense, a little darker. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do a gradient for the background of our button. I'm going to jump into background. And instead of a solid color, we're going to do a linear gradient. It's going to start using this red. And it's going to continue to use that red until we hit this darker tone of red. Perfect. And probably want to make this column even wider. Column, columns, column. Let's make this 35%. That's actually way too much, but for now, let's do sign in, and we're gonna do sign up with no letter spacing. All right, and I'm gonna hit save just to make sure we don't lose our work. Excellent. I'm thinking that maybe it makes sense for us to, how would I put it? Yeah, let's squish this here. Let's make this button align to the right. And here, this center column, we're gonna make 50%. This is perfect. The menu item, we're gonna align to the center. This menu element, menu box. Let's make sure we're keeping everything nicely aligned. And I don't need padding here. Great. Now we can just go ahead and modify these menu items. So instead of nav1, we're going to have features. Features. And I don't need all of these caps. So let's do features. And we're going to do. I think it's going to be easier if we do it from here, actually. Let's do, instead of nav1, let's do features here. And we're going to do, what's the next one? It is updates, pricing, blog. Updates, pricing. And we need a new one for blog. All right, and I think we need one last one for download. So we're going to do download. All right. And here, we want to, again, get rid of that. And we want to make sure that the space in between isn't that much. We don't need that much space in between menu items. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now, this header is extremely tall right now. We don't need our header to be this tall, right? So now we need to identify which menu items are creating this or are making this header be so tall, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into each of my columns and make sure that I don't have any margins or paddings. This image is probably, okay, this logo doesn't have any margins or paddings. Let's take a look at all these columns. Yeah, identify a pair of columns with some margins and paddings. Let's get rid of those. This button probably has, yeah, some top and bottom margin. This one as well. This button is actually going to need, I would say, probably about 75 pixels of roundness. So let's go into borders and corners, and let's do 75 pixels of roundness. And here, let's make this 12 pixels of top and bottom padding. We're going to do the same thing for this one. Yeah, it's much better. And I don't love the fact that these buttons are not using, yeah, actually, it's not that bad. Yeah, let's continue power through this. Columns, header. So this header probably has, oh, it doesn't have a minimum height. Okay, which means that somewhere in here, we still have an element that is creating a lot of, making our header be this tall. So we need to identify which element that is. Let's get rid of all of these paddings. There you go. This is much better now. Let's just go ahead and double check here that we don't have anything else. Yeah, look at that. 20 pixels here that we don't need. This is starting to look a whole lot better. All right, I think I'm going to hit save for now, and we can continue to work on our footer now. So I'm going to go ahead and do save. I'm going to jump back into my WordPress dashboard. All right, I'm inside global elements again, but instead of creating a new header now, we're going to work on a new footer. So let's go ahead and create a new footer. And if we take a look at the footer here for Superlist, it's actually a pretty simple footer, right? We have a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got 5 columns in total, right? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. and then a simple row here towards the bottom with some copyright text. It shouldn't be too difficult to replicate this on our website using Thrive Theme Builder. Let's go ahead and do that. We need a template that makes use of at least 4 columns. So maybe we want to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns and a copyright text. Let's go ahead and do that one. I mean, it doesn't come with a whole lot of placeholder content, but it already has the structure of our columns more or less created. So let's go ahead and power through with this simple one and see how far it can take us. All right, we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Oh, but this is actually a menu item. I got tricked by Thrive Architect. That's funny. All right, no, not a problem. We're gonna start from scratch and we're gonna insert a series of columns here above our copyright text. And let's do 4 columns for now. We're gonna need a 5th one, but that's okay. Gonna get rid of this menu item. And in here, we're gonna do, well, we need some text, and then I would say there's a couple of ways of doing this, but probably I would actually do probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 different text elements. I mean, there's a few different ways in which you can do this, but for now, let's insert a text element, and we're gonna do company. All right, company, and we're gonna highlight this. We're gonna make this red, and it is going to be, actually, let's do this right. Grab this red. It's good. Stick it in there. Let's make this bold and letter spacing 0. Let's actually make this -1. And we're gonna make this a little bigger. Let's do 22. It's probably not that big actually. Let's do 18. I think it needs to be left aligned. So let's left align this. I'm gonna duplicate this, bring it over to our 3rd hand column. Instead of company, we're gonna say app. We're gonna duplicate this, drag it over into our 4th column. We're gonna say social. And we're gonna duplicate this text element. And if we try and drag it to the right hand column of this text element, you're gonna see how we can actually here, put it towards the right of these columns. And it creates another column for us, which is precisely what we wanted, which is great. So we got company, empty column, app, social, and then for our last column, we need updates. I'm gonna play these colors by eye, okay? That way we can go a little faster. Updates is gonna be green, app is gonna be pinkish, and social is going to be blue. All right. And then of course we gotta take care of our background color. Let's go ahead and select our purplish background color again. And to make sure we're actually consistent with the color of our purple, let's go ahead and save this as a favorite color here. Let's do my colors. Let's save it as a favorite color. That way we can quickly select it as a color here as we're designing our page. All right, and then underneath our main headings here, we can simply start dragging and dropping in some text elements. Probably here we're gonna left align this. Let's make it white. And here we're just gonna do, for the sake of being a little faster here in our walkthrough, we're just gonna do menu item 1, and we're gonna duplicate this 5 different times. All right, you could, to speed things up, you could put a content box inside these things. Let's actually do that. It's going to save us a little bit of time. If we put things inside a content box, these text elements, that means that we can quickly duplicate that content box. The one that we just inserted here, let's get rid of these margins and paddings. We don't need them. And now we can duplicate the content box, drag and drop it underneath this text element, and boom, we've duplicated that list of text elements really quickly. And do the same thing here. And content box, duplicate it one more time and put it here. And then here we can just do white. Copyright 2025. Let's do here. Let's do Superlist, all rights reserved. Awesome. I think I'm kind of happy. I mean, we're missing this content box. Let's actually do that really quick. I'm gonna need this background color. So let's go ahead and instead of doing, this column is gonna have to be a little wider. So here we're gonna do, instead of having all of these different text elements, we're going to select the content box that holds that text element. Let's actually do 12 pixels of inner padding. Let's give this some background some background color and some roundness as well. Let's do 20 pixels. 20 might be too much. Let's do 10 pixels. Right, and here we can do version 12.8. And I think it said AI meeting notes. Let's have another text here. It can be 24 pixels big. Let's make it white. And let's do AI meeting notes. Let's duplicate this one, drag it underneath the main heading, and let's do May 20th, 2025. Let's make this a little smaller. And I think we've got our footer, guys. Get rid of some of this line spacing. Hey, I'm kind of liking this. What do you guys think? Huh. So this is You see how we may be interested. I don't love the fact that, oh, for one, we forgot to insert a list of text elements here. Here, let's do that. And there's a couple of ways in which we can fix this. Right now we have a problem, which is we want these menu items to be aligned at this height, right? We don't want this list of menu items to start here at the top. So there's a couple of ways in which we can fix this. We can either duplicate one of these headings, bring it here towards the top so that we can push the list of menu items towards the bottom, and make this have the same purplish color as the background. That way you can't actually see the text element. That is a kind of dirty little hack. Or you could just get rid of that text element and give your content box some margins. The problem is that those margins on mobile you're gonna have to make sure that you get rid of them. But yeah, it's honestly up to you how you do it. This is, either way works. I think I'm inclined to just using margins because at the end of the day, if you put text elements on your page, Google is going to see that. And, I'm not sure that I for this particular scenario, I don't think it would matter that much either. But anyways, let's just bar with a little bit of top margin for now and make sure that you make it mobile responsive. Now, what I did mean to tell you guys is that I don't love the fact that when you stretch your page or your browser is really wide, if someone is using an ultra wide monitor, for example, I don't love it when footers stretch out to cover the full width of the screen. It forces people to have to tilt their faces from left to right in order to be able to see everything. I would much rather just keep things concentrated in the center of the screen, if possible. And there's a couple of ways in which we can do that. The first one is simply putting these columns inside a content box. Or we could just come here and tell Thrive Architect, hey, I want you to align these set of columns to the middle and give this a maximum width of, say, 1080 pixels wide. And now you can see how these columns are not going to stretch out more than 1080 pixels wide, which is kind of cool. I like this. All right. It's been about 20 minutes and we've taken care of our header and footer. So now it's time for us to actually go back and start working on our actual page. Perfect. So I'm in the back end of WordPress and I've picked out the option of creating a new page. I'm just going to title this Superlist. I'm going to save it as a draft and fire up the page with Thrive Architect. Now, of course, when we fire up a new page with Thrive Architect, as usual, is going to prompt us to start working from a predefined starting point. Okay, we can either work from a normal page, and a normal page is essentially just going to pick out the template that a page, that the page looks like, and that is going to be predetermined by our WordPress theme. We can also work on a standalone page that simply contains a header and a footer. We can start working from a completely blank canvas, or we can start working from a pre-built landing page that our team of professional designers here at Thrive have already designed for you guys. In this case, we're going to start from a blank page that contains a header and a footer, which are obviously going to be the header and footer that we just worked on. So let's go ahead and pick out that option. And here we're going to replace the header. We're going to change the header, and we're going to look for the Superlist header that we've worked on. It's this one. And we're going to do the same thing for our footer. So we're going to change the footer, and we're going to look for the Superlist footer that we've just been working on. Superlist. Awesome. Pretty cool. All right, we've got our header and we've got our footer. Next up, let's actually we can continue to work from scratch here. Let's get rid of all these sections, and let's insert a new background section in between our header and footer. And in here, for the background style, something that I'm noticing is that my theme actually has this light pink, I'm not sure if you can tell, assigned as a default for background sections. So I'm going to come into my page settings and make this have our default purplish background color. I'm going to hit apply, and we can continue to work from here. So now we get to start working on the actual hero section. So the hero section is going to consist of a content box. So let's go ahead and do a content box. Inside the content box, we're going to have some text. And the text is going to read introducing meeting notes. And we actually need, so here's what's special about this. We need 2 columns. And in the left-hand column, we're going to have this piece of text that reads new. And then in our right-hand column, we're going to have this other string of text that reads introducing meeting notes. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually get rid of that text element. Let's do columns. And let's do 50-50. And here we're going to do new. And we're going to duplicate that, move it over to the right, and we're going to do introducing meeting notes. So here for new, we need a purplish background color. Let's grab that background color. The typography can remain being black, but then we do need introducing meeting notes to be white. All right. And we're going to make this bold. Let's make it a little bigger. And then new, we're going to make that we're going to leave that black, but we are going to give this purplish background color. And layout and position, let's give this a max width of 150 pixels for now. We can probably bring this down even more right now. And we don't need any sort of line spacing. But just to make sure that we do have a little bit of breathing room, let's give this string of text some padding all around. And let's make sure we make it wide enough so that it doesn't break into 2 different rows. We need this to be, I would say, 75 pixels. That's a little too much. Maybe 50, 25, 50 pixels. And probably make this a little wider. Center, justify the text to the middle. All right. And let's make these columns. Actually, let's pick out, using the breadcrumbs, make sure that you select the content box at the top and bring this down. Right now, let's center the content box. And I think we need this to be a little wider. Otherwise, we've made it too thin. Otherwise, introducing meeting notes is going to be broken up into two different rows, which we don't want. And let's get rid of that line spacing. Let's make sure we select those two columns that are holding these two different text elements, and we justify things vertically speaking. That way they're both aligned as they should be. And I think now we can go back to the content box and reduce the maximum width. Perfect. That's more or less what we're going after. I think there's too much top and bottom padding here for new. Let's make this 2 pixels only. Yeah, that's much better. And now we need home to all your work. So we're going to do an H1 here, home to, and this is going to be an H1 heading. Oh, but we don't want that typography. Here, I'm using Instrument Sans, which is the same font that we're using here in the nav items. So now let's do home to, and this is going to be in white. Right? Yeah. It's actually not fully white, is it? It's darkish, grayish. Let's see. Perfect. And we did make a mistake here, which is we don't want the H1 to be inside the same content box as this mini heading, if you will. Otherwise, we're going to bump into this problem where the H1 is getting a maximum width applied, which we don't want. So let's go ahead and create a new content box underneath that content box. And then this one doesn't have a maximum width assigned, so we can drag that text element inside that content box. And now let's center this. And we gotta make it bolder, we gotta make it bigger. So let's do letter spacing, let's do -1, even -2 maybe. Home to. Get rid of some of these margins that we don't need. Text, content box, let's get rid of that as well. We have a lot of internal paddings here, which is creating this huge gap. And probably don't need this either. Home to, and then let's duplicate this H1. All your work. Let's italicize this. And here for the typography, instead of doing a solid color, we're going to do a gradient. This gradient is going to go, I would say it goes from top to bottom. Let's pick out this red. Gradient top is going to be this red that we just picked out. And the bottom one is going to be a little darker, isn't it? Right. Perfect. I think we just need to bold this. Let's bold it. Make sure that when it's bolded, let's make it 700. And we're going to do the same thing here for home 2. Bold 700. Let's bold it. All right. Not bad. Looking pretty good. Home to all your work. And we need this subheading now. So let's go ahead and insert a text element underneath this text. Oops. Let's make it white. And let's paste matching the same style. Let's make this 22. And I think we do want to give this a maximum width. And it's probably of about, what, 600 pixels wide of maximum width? Maybe even less. Let's do 500. And let's do 600 now. All right. Not bad. And now we need the actual image of our, oh, sorry, forgot those 2 call to actions. So let's do a pair of columns underneath this text element. And we're going to do a button here on the left-hand column. This button is going to be of type, one very similar to the one that we did in the header. with a gradient background. Background style, let's do a gradient from top to bottom. Bit of a darker red. Apply, and we want to do sign up. We don't need any kind of letter spacing here. And we do want to make this, I think, 75 pixels of roundness. Right, sign up for free. Sign up for free. I think the letter spacing of this is a little too much. Yeah, that's better. And let's bold it. Awesome. And now we need book a demo. Book a demo is going to be of a different color. But you know what we can do? Just duplicate this button, drag and drop it into the right-hand column, and change the background style so that instead of a linear gradient, we use a solid color. And there we're going to do, I think it said book a demo. Yeah, book a demo. And then these columns, we just come here, center them, and give them a max width of what, 600 pixels? No, even less. Even less. That's about right. Let's get rid of some of these margins and paddings. And guys, we're getting pretty close to having a working hero section. Let's do an image now. Underneath these columns, can probably put the image underneath the content box itself, actually. Let's do below. Which image am I supposed to be using? Production planning June. This one. Awesome. Hey, not bad, is it? Introducing meeting notes. I think there's still a little bit of margin or padding here that is bugging me a little bit. Could be this padding that I don't want and I don't need. See how much space is there. Actually, no, they do have a little bit of breathing room. Let's add in that padding once again. Could be just me getting used to not having this much breathing room in between these two elements. But I think I'm pretty happy with the way this is looking. So when you hover over these buttons right now, nothing happens, but you could make them grow like Superlist is doing. I'm not a terribly fan of this sort of thing, but since we are trying to copycat them, let's just go ahead and mimic that behavior. And let's go ahead and hit save, and let's preview our work so far. All right, this is what we have so far. And if we hover over those buttons, they grow. Pretty cool. All right, you know what we're missing? A little bit of this background gradient that Superlist has going on. So let's go ahead and add that. So the way we do this is I've personally downloaded this sort of like gradient. It's not going to be exactly as the one Superlist is using. Just make sure that you have either an SVG or a PNG that you can use in the background. And here we're going to come into the main background section for this hero section. And inside background style, we can just do add an image. And I can probably just use this one. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's hit apply, and that's not bad. To be honest, we could add another one if we wanted to. And we could position it in a different place. Let's do contain. And you could potentially play with the positioning. Put it wherever you think you're going to like it best. Maybe there. It's not bad, is it? I think I like this. All right, let's hit save and continue to work on our next section. All right, so the next section is essentially going to consist of some logos of companies that are using our Superlist application. So used by professionals from GitHub and so forth and so on. Now, one thing is that I think I want to keep that section as part of the hero section for the following reason. If you take a look at how this gradient blends into those two sections, right? Typically speaking, I would probably treat this as a different section on my homepage, and I would create a new background section, put things inside a new content box. But if I use a different background section, I'm not going to be able to have that gradient, this gradient in the background, blend in between the hero section and my news section, which means that I think I'm going to have to keep everything inside my hero section and simply add in a content box here below the image. We're going to give this maybe 120 pixels of top margin. And you see how there's this gradient in the background that is blending into the following section. If we create a new background section, it's just, we're going to lose that. So let's just go ahead and do this. Now, inside the content box, we're going to have, I think it's 4 logos in each different column. Yeah. And for the sake of powering through this section pretty quickly, we're just going to replicate the same logo over and over again. We're just going to use this Google logo. Let's make this maybe about 40%. Center it. Let's duplicate this, and duplicate this once again. And we can just take this set of columns and duplicate it. And boom, we're just missing our heading. It says something along the lines of, you know what? I think I want to duplicate this one and break it down. It's going to save me a little bit of time because now I can just make it a little bigger. Trusted by professionals. I think it said something trusted, used by professionals from. Used by professionals from. Let's make this a little bigger. And boom, we've got our section. Now for the following section, we are going to create a new one, a new background section. Let's hit save. And let's go ahead and drag and drop a new background section underneath. And here, I think we're going to be using, this is interesting because they start off with this heading being white, and then it turns into grayish, a light white or a light tone of gray. This image, I'm not sure I was able to download. Let me check. This little graphic here is a vector that I'm not capable of downloading. So we're just going to use a fancy arrow here really quick to replicate that and mimic that. It's not a super big deal, but we can just drag and drop an image here, and let's just use this arrow for now. And let's make this smaller. You can probably using some of these image effects, maybe change the color of the arrow to, yeah, let's make it yellowish. Nice. And then we need headings. So here we're going to take this, duplicate it, put it underneath the image, left align it, and I'm going to do tasks and notes together. Let's make this 32. I think it's bigger actually. Yeah, no, it's bigger. All right, this is going to be white. And then turn your is going to be a different color. Cool thing is that within the same string of text, Thrive Architect allows us to change the color, which is pretty nice. Awesome. And now we can just duplicate that. And this is going to be thoughts into actions. Let's get rid of this first part of the sentence, which is white. Let's do thoughts into actions. Nice. And then I think, yeah, we have a video. Now, in your case, guys, if you're watching at home, I don't want you to do what I'm about to do, which is I've uploaded the video to my WordPress media library. That is not something you want to do, okay? You want to either host the video on YouTube or on Vimeo or Wistia or somewhere else, but don't put it inside your WordPress media library because it's going to make your it's just going to, if you start uploading videos to your media library, your server is just going to get full with content that shouldn't, technically speaking, being hosted on WordPress. I'm doing it because I have a staging environment where I can afford to do this, but you really don't want to be doing this, okay? So I'm going to pick an uploaded video, but you want to make sure you're using something that you've hosted somewhere else. I think that's the video that I'm going for. Yeah, that's the one. Awesome. We've got our video. And I think this is fine. I like that default aspect ratio. And lazy loading. Yeah, pretty cool. Not bad. And I don't think I mind any of those side player controls for now. And we can have that loop. Awesome. I think I'm happy with that. That would be one section. And now we jump into a 2-column layout. Now this 2-column layout isn't just a 2-column layout. It's a little bit tricky because we've got vertical tabs, if you will, right? Where every single time you click on one of these headings, the content on the right-hand column changes. And we've got different videos here for each different option. So let's try and replicate this as best as we can using Thrive Architect, and most importantly, without touching a single line of code. I think I don't have to create a new section yet. We're going to continue to work inside this background section. But you probably do want to put. Actually, no. Yeah, let's follow my own best practices. I always tell people inside Thrive University and everything, hey, make sure that you put things inside a content box. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's drag and drop another content box underneath this main content box. And here we're going to do some tabs. And let's pick out an option that allows us to do vertical tabs. So let's do a template like maybe. I think I want to do this one. Perfect. Here, let's go ahead and edit the design of our tabs. So first things first. Let me change the typographies that we're using, instrument sans. And that looks good. No letter spacing. And I think we want to be using natural language here in our first, actually, our first tab is this one. Natural language. And I know you can't see anything. We're going to change I think it's the background color that we got to change. Yeah. Let's actually go ahead and do that. Let's change the background color of our tabs because we can't really see much right now. Let's make use of our purplish color. Awesome. We're going to change the color of our actual tabs as well. And these tabs as well. And we're going to take this, make it white. That way they're all white. We've got natural language. We've got nested tasks, and we've got tasks from integrations. Awesome. And I think I want to make the secondary text here. Type dates and set due dates into tasks. Type dates and set due dates. And this should not have any sort of weird formatting. Perfect. Let's make this smaller. Oops, but I do want this one to be bigger. Oh. It doesn't look like, I just discovered this as I'm working on this, but it doesn't look like we can actually change this without going into the CSS. I can't change the font size of the secondary text to be different from that of the primary text. If I change one, the other one is going to change as well, which makes me wonder. I think it's best for now to just not have secondary text because it's going to be a little confusing. So let's do natural language, nested tasks, tasks from integrations, and We can get rid of tab 4, get rid of tab 5, and let's show this tab. And we just need a video inside this tab. It's going to be an uploaded video for me. Remember, you want to be hosting your videos elsewhere. Let's change this video. I think it's this one. And let's show this tab. Get rid of everything else. Let's do a video. Oops. Video. Let's get rid of this. All right. Here, let's drag and drop the video. Let's pick out another video. I think this one's nested tasks. I'm probably mixing and matching them in the wrong way, but it doesn't matter. You get the gist of it, right? And then tab 3, the last one where we need to insert a video. It's going to be uploaded. Oops. Going to do move seamlessly. All right. Perfect. I probably don't want to have player controls for any of those, actually. Hide player controls and hide player controls. And we probably want to get rid of all of these margins. So get rid of all these margins and get rid of all of these margins. Awesome. I think I'm kind of happy with the way this looks. The only problem is that I think Superlist, so obviously we don't have the subheading, which is an inconvenience. And we don't have, I think we want to make this actually a bit bigger. These tabs. Yeah, for these tabs, what I think we want to do is change the size from fixed to relative. That way there won't be a maximum width. And now if we make the tab content itself smaller, pretty sure, yeah, these should start. Actually, no, we're probably not going to be able to do that. Let's go back. Let's go back. Don't scratch that idea. What we can probably do is just for the tabs, let's give this some margin. I mean, like, what, 250 pix? Oops, no, not that. Sorry, I meant the actual tab item. Yeah, that's not going to work either. I think that in order to make sure that we can keep this as clean as possible, I'm not sure if I just want to keep this section, the video itself, not to cover the full width of the screen, because got a few different options here. The problem is that the tabs are always going to be aligned to the top. And let's actually hit save and preview our work so far. Okay, this is good. This is good. This is good. This is great. Awesome. I love this. And this is not bad. The problem is that the video is really big and then these tabs are not aligned in the center. Then there's also this strange border that we gotta take care of. So first things first, borders, none, none. And here, silly Tony, look what I found out. Here, if you come into tabs, you do have the option of adding in some vertical spacing. So let's do 300 pixels. And that positions those tabs towards the center. And if we now hit preview, let's check that out. Yeah. This is much better. Much better. This is awesome. This is great. Perfect. All right, not 100% yet what we're going after. Let's bold these. And I really don't want to have that break apart into two different lines if we can. Tabs, tab item. Okay. So just brought the font size down to 16 pixels. Okay. I'm okay. I'm okay with this. This looks good. I mean, it's clearly not precisely like Superlist. We don't have the fancy animation here in the left-hand border. But keep in mind, guys, that we're doing this without writing a single line of code as well, which is something to take into account, I think. All right, we are going to be able to just duplicate the section from here above. Let's actually duplicate the entire background section. All right. And I think we can just change the text. Move seamlessly from talk to done. Move seamlessly from talk to done. Okay, no caps. And then you've got AI. Powered meeting notes and voice assistant. Powered meeting notes and voice assistant. And we're going to have a different video. And these are actually tabs, but instead of vertical tabs, they are horizontal tabs. So here, let's actually see if we can just do tabs, vertical, horizontal. And we would need to change the layout here a little bit because these tabs, they need to be aligned to the middle. Oh, all of that vertical space that we assigned, we got to get rid of. Let's make that 0. And for the default tab, natural language. Tab item. State selected. Let's not have any borders on the right and instead have them on the bottom. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's make that white. And then on the right, let's do 0. Great. And in order to align these tabs towards the center of the screen, what we could potentially do is horizontal spacing. And let's do another 300 pixels. Yeah. 250, give or take. Hey, I think this is pretty cool. We have the tabs at the top instead of the bottom, but I think this is pretty cool. Let's hit save. And let's continue to work on the next section, which we can probably just duplicate one more time. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do duplicate on this background section. And here we will have supercharge your team. Supercharge your team. Awesome. And then share lists, and collaborate in real time. We would have a different video, again, of course, and a 2-column layout with a couple of pictures. So here we can get rid of this tab element. Let's drag and drop a new content box underneath the video. And let's do a 2-column layout. 50-50 split. And let's see if we can grab a heading here. I think the one at the top, maybe this one. Let's go ahead and drag it all the way towards the bottom. Let's put it there. And it's going to say message in context. Message In context, we're going to have to make this a bit bigger. Like 32. Is that too big? Yeah, it's too big. Let's do 28. And you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that it may be better to actually put these things in a content box. That way we can duplicate them and repurpose them in the right-hand column in a second. I still think this is a little bit too big, so let's do 24. Let's duplicate this, and this is going to say, just copy and paste this. Let's make this 18, and let's make it gray and not bold. Awesome. And we need an image. Perfect. The image, oh, I don't have the image. All right, let's go ahead and drag and drop that image here and here. And I think the blue one comes first, right? Let's give it some borders, 10 pixels. And now check this out. We can just grab this content box that we've put all of the elements inside of, duplicate it, and bring it over into the right-hand column, change the image, and we've saved ourselves a little bit of time. Updates for all. Let's just do updates for all. Awesome. Hey, looking pretty nice. And if we scroll down, we got some more headings. I think I'm going to skip this section, guys, because it's a very simple section to design and jump directly into this one, which is a little more tricky because here we've got, well, it's not tricky, but it's I guess it's fun. That's the right term that I'm looking for. Do a content box. And inside the background section, I'm going to justify things vertically. And inside this content box, let's grab one of these text elements, for example, drag and drop it in here, align everything to the center, and we're going to make this 32 pixels, maybe even bigger. No, it's going to have to be bigger. Let's do 48. You probably want to use a, maybe, I was going to say you probably want to use an H4 or something, but these aren't really headings. These are actual text elements. So let's just do real-time collaboration. Oops, what happened there? Let's do real-time collaboration and repeatable tasks. Let me see, is there, yeah, there is space in between text elements. So let's go ahead, since we're going to be duplicating these, let's go ahead and do maybe 10 pixels of top and bottom margin in between text elements. And duplicate this one again. That way we have those margins duplicated too. Repeatable tasks. Oops, repeatable tasks. And offline support. Offline support. We're going to take care of, are they not being consistent? Yeah, they're not being consistent with capitalization, which is bugging me a little bit, but okay. Widgets. Oh no, what happened there? Okay. Widgets. Can't spell today. Widgets. Nested lists and tasks. Nested lists and tasks. And multi-platform and integrations. Let's do multi-platform and integrations. Integrations. All right, I think that's good enough. And what we want to do is slowly start either changing the opacity, or I'm trying to think what's the easiest way of doing this. What if we slowly start changing the opacity of our text element? So we do 90 pixels here. I wonder if this is going to work. I'm not sure. I think the math makes sense, but I could be wrong. We do 80 pixels here. They should, technically speaking, get darker and darker as they go down. Here we do 60, 19876, 5. This one's 50. Oops, not 500, but 50. And this one would be 40. So you can see how it does get darker as you scroll down. And if we have even more text elements, which Superlist does have reminders, AI powered reminders. This one would be 30. AI powered. Be AI powered. Be 20. Yeah, you can see the distinction between the top one, and as you scroll down through the list, this is such a simple way of creating a fun little way of capturing people's attention, because inevitably our eyes are going to start wondering, like our brain starts wondering, wait, why is the text getting darker and darker? And you read the text. It's like the design walks you down a ladder of text that you inevitably want to read. Really, really slick, really smart. And guys, I think I'm going to call it a day because we've been here for over an hour now. And the only thing we haven't done is this fancy little text, which I'm not going to be able to do, unfortunately, because I don't even know what font style they're using. It could be even an image. No, it's not an image, but I wonder what kind of custom typography they're using. Let me just hit save and preview my work so far. Let's see. So there's something odd about the spacing here that bugs me. I think I want to somehow find a way of making the space in between these two text elements smaller. And if we keep on scrolling down, actually, let's go. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm missing a little bit of breathing room in between this section, but in between the call to actions, the image, and the subheading, but this is the way they have it. Yeah. Guys, to be honest, I think I like mine better than theirs. Not to brag, but yeah, let's get rid of these line heights, line spacing. That's much better. That is much better. And if you ask me, I think they have these call to actions be a little shorter. They're not as tall, so let's get rid of some of that internal padding. But I'm missing some breathing room in between these sections, if you ask me. But this is how they have it, so. And you know what we could do to spruce it up a little bit? Why don't we insert inside some of these background sections some more gradients to make it a little bit more vivid? Go ahead and pick out that image. It's perfect. And here, let's not do cover, let's do default. Let's put it maybe somewhere there. Oh, I'm doing it for the content box. You want to make sure you're not doing it inside a content box. You want to do it for the background section. Otherwise, it's gonna the surface in which that gradient can move around is gonna be way too small. So here, yeah, that's better. Let's do default. Oh, you can drag it around a little bit. Yeah. Not bad, is it? I think I like this. Let's do one more here. Perfect. Let's do default. Oh, okay, this is maybe better placed there. Maybe I'm overcramping it too much with gradients, but I think this looks pretty cool. Probably want some padding in between these sections. So let's do 92 pixels of bottom padding there. And yeah, we definitely, if we're going to keep the gradient there, we definitely want a. What I don't want is to create this distinction between these two sections. And right now, since the gradient is getting caught off by the section underneath it, it doesn't look too good, which makes me wonder if I should move it up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. but then we're going to have the same problem above. Not good. I'm inclined to just remove the gradient all around because it's getting caught off. Or maybe if we do a percentage of keep this 20 pixels tall and 20 pixels wide, we can put it there maybe. And that, yeah, that's much better. Much, much better. Yeah. What do you guys think? I think for an hour worth of work, it's not bad, is it? This is giving me some OCD here. So edit the header and make sure to get rid of this spacing. That's much better. Of course, we could make the header be sticky, scroll behavior sticky, and then switch on scroll. And then on scroll, we want to make the header have the same purplish color, but make it a little bit transparent. Apply, done, save, and guys, let's preview our end result. Let's hit save, refresh, and as we scroll, we might want to make the header even a little bit more transparent. Can you see how if we scroll on scroll, the content is a little bit translucent and you can kind of see it through the header? It's not clear enough, so I'd probably make it even more transparent. On scroll, background style. Oops, let's make this. I thought I hit done 80. Apply, done, save. Yeah, that's much better. Much, much better. You can clearly see the picture behind the header now. Kind of like that. Anyways, I think we've done good work. And there you have it. We've just recreated a professional award-winning design using nothing but Thrive Architect. No coding required, no design degree needed. It was pretty straightforward. And you know what the best part is? Now that you have this template saved in your library, you can adapt it for any type of business or product. I mean, you can change the colors, you can adjust the spacing, you can make it your own, but keep those core design principles that we've talked about intact, because that's what makes the page work so well. Now, if you found this learn down helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got more design breakdowns and conversion optimization videos coming along the way. And be sure to drop in a comment letting me know what website you'd like me to recreate in the near future. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you soon. Thanks again. Bye.